everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sugar and Spikes podcast, and the last episode in our Making It Happen kind of series. For the past few weeks, we've been talking about coming up with goals, knowing if those goals are your goals or someone else's, and being okay with changing your mind, and tools to reach your goals, and a lot of really good shit. So if you haven't heard those, go back and listen to those. Because, like, fair warning, today may be a little bit of a downer, but positive. It'll be sweet. It'll be sweet. It'll be all about growth.
And compassion.
For those of you that don't know, I'm Des. I'm a life coach for badass women who want to live an extraordinary life. And we have our co-host here, Tammy the therapist, who lends credibility to all the shit I do. It's awesome.
Stamp approval. That's what I need. I need an actual stamp. Over.
Oh my god, that should be our podcast cover thing. So today we're talking about, like, what happens when we've had these goals and we've tried and we've tried and we've tried, and either they, like, we haven't gotten to where we wanted to be, where we thought we would be. The universe kind of just threw us for a complete loop, and we had to walk away completely from things, like...
So you're talking about failure.
But I don't like calling it failure.
I know you don't, and that's what you're talking about.
Okay, so...
Semantics.
Asterisk failure.
Okay. Or it that shall not be named.
The one 4-letter word I don't say.
Okay. So failure, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
We're going to call it failure today for the sake of simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when you fail?
I feel like shit.
It does feel like shit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's really not great.
So what do?
Sorry, I should not be doing this while we're recording.
Tisk.
Guys, if you want the backstory on all this stuff, follow my Instagram. It's good. My stories are so good.
They are.
Okay, so what happens when we fail?
What do you do? No.
What do I do?
You.
Drink.
You drink. What do you say to yourself?
I really fucked up and shouldn't have done it. Like, I definitely go to the place where, like, I shouldn't have tried. And it makes me, like...
So you're very judgy, because to me, should is, like, that ultimate, like, I'm judging word.
Oh, totally.
Okay. So me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I am really harsh on myself when I fail at something.
I think, like, one thing that's important to note is, like, people that want to do things and want to make shit happen and go out and conquer the world, like, have very strong ideas and very strong, not principles, but, like... Standards. And, like, that's one of the things that makes us so awesome, and one of the things that kind of stands in our way sometimes.
I agree. I mean, you know, for me personally, I have very high standards for myself.
Yeah.
And failure just does not fit in with my worldview.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't...
It does not happen.
Nope.
But then it does happen.
Right? It totally does. So, like, I spend all this time avoiding it and being, like, sticking my fingers in my ears and being like, la, 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 la.
Uh-huh.
And then it happens, and it's here, and what do you do?
Yeah.
And it's... For me, it becomes almost a really soul-crushing experience at times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I have to remind myself about being self-compassionate and gentle with myself, which is really difficult for me. I'll admit it. It's really difficult. And it's really important.
Yeah. And I feel like self-compassion is not talked about.
Not really.
Like, when... Like, I think it's important to note that when we say self-compassion, we're not talking self-care.
Or self-esteem.
It's neither of those things.
It's neither of those things. Nope. So, the elements of self-compassion are really kindness directed at self, a sense of community or being connected, and taking a mindful stance.
Okay.
So mindful in the sense that you are in the present moment, mindful that you're not necessarily assigning value to things, okay? So that, I mean, that's not self-care, that's not self-esteem, because the idea of self-esteem is that it's based in this idea of we possess certain qualities, we possess certain traits that people or ourselves can assign value to. So I'm valuable because I'm pretty. I'm valuable because I'm smart. Yeah. That's kind of this idea of self-esteem. But self-compassion is you feel compassion for yourself because everyone deserves compassion and understanding.
I feel like what you're getting at, like, is really one of your favorite concepts, and that's okay, but personified, like, and you're okay, and I'm okay. You know, like, totally. Allowing that to be.
And it's a journey, for sure. It's something that I work on all the time. And, you know, those just aren't the messages that we get. We don't get this message that we deserve compassion or understanding. It's like you deserve admiration because you're successful, or because you're pretty, or because you're smart, or because insert quality here.
Yeah.
Not just because you are.
Well, and even in the personal development world and the self-help world, there's not a lot of space for you are and you are okay. It's like, keep going, get stronger, do better, be more productive, be bigger, be louder, be more authentic, be these things. Like,
it's like this.
It's this. I mean, it's like in the name.
It's like a go type thing. It's like, an achieve. Keep going till you achieve.
Yeah, and I guess like personal development and self-help is like an active idea, so it would be in the name. And like, still, you can't keep going at 100%. You can't keep going at 60% even all the time without stopping to pause and, you know, just fucking be.
The other thing I like about self-compassion is it provides, I think, more clarity, a more realistic assessment of ourselves. So instead of putting our fingers in our ears and pretending like failure hasn't happened, right? We can acknowledge that it has happened, but with kindness, and not in this way that like needs to be hidden from the world or hidden from ourselves or just admitted to with shame and like this hang of our head.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay. So it doesn't depend on whatever's going on. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It doesn't depend on whether you are a roaring success or you're like flat on your face, right? And, you know, evidence has shown that it's associated with your ability to bounce back emotionally. The more self-compassion you have, the more resilience you have with your emotions, and a more realistic view of ourselves.
I mean, that makes so much sense. Like, when you really stop and think about it, because it allows space for growth.
Yeah.
You know, instead of this expectation of perfection and constant.
Like, identify positives, right?
Yeah.
Except you and I talk about the and. You and I talk about balance.
Yeah.
So self-compassion gives us the ability to say, we have the self-concept that there's positives to us, there's negatives to us, there's areas we can improve, there's areas where we're really good. We have special strengths. And to see all of that, and not just like obsessively focus on the positive. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I talk about, like, when you are successful and when you're really killing it and everything, you start to get everything you want, and you get all the bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not cute or sexy, and what do you do with that?
Right. So you can't acknowledge that without it being somehow tied to your self-worth. It's going to be awfully hard to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why self-compassion and self-esteem are like not the same concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Because self-esteem is tied to our worth, whatever we've decided we're worth, our assignment of value.
So, for a lot of folks, this is probably either a brand new concept or they haven't spent much time thinking about it.
Yeah.
How could they start to kind of piece apart, like, I don't know, like maybe as an activity or something, like, here's my idea of my self-esteem and here's my, like, self-compassion. Like, how would they start developing self-compassion without getting caught in, well, I'm developing my self-esteem?
So self-esteem, I feel good about myself because insert thing here. Self-compassion, I deserve compassion and kindness because I am.
Okay.
It doesn't go further than that.
It's that.
It's that.
Okay.
And one way that I think that can be a really difficult place.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kristen Neff has a lot of stuff on self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
She's like the self-compassion guru, and I love her work.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the exercises that I've gotten from her is to think about how you would treat a close friend if they came to you with the same situation you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't achieved your goal. You've fallen flat on your face.
Right.
How would you deal with it if your best friend came to you in that situation?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Mm-hmm.
What would be the tone you would say it in? What would you do?
Yeah. And I know in recovery communities and in recovery circles, another way to look at that kind of idea is what would you do if it was like 5-year-old you?
Mm-hmm.
So
there's different ways of doing it.
So whichever one like you kind of click with, if like you identify more with like, connecting with your younger self, because I know a lot of people really like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to connect it with a friend, but just like another reference point, how would you respond if that?
Right. So how would you respond if it was your 5-year-old self?
Mm-hmm.
How would you respond if it was your best friend? So that's like the first part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then think about yourself in the same situation. Now, what do you typically do to yourself, say to yourself, treat yourself, the tone in which you talk to yourself, the tone that you hear the voice in your head?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's all about building awareness. What's the difference between those two?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference in how you talk to your 5-year-old self between how you talk to you now?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between how you would talk to your friend and how you talk to yourself? And then think about how you think things might change for you in your life if you responded to yourself the way you responded to your friend.
So,
how would it make things different?
So can I just say, I think, like, I love all of this, and I think that there is this assumption that folks are generally, like, nice. I want to say, like, I worked with a client one time, or I was working with them, kind of around this, and I posed that, like, sentiment along the same lines, and pretty much in that moment, she realized that she was just, like, the biggest bitch. It could be mind-blowing.
Self-awareness moment.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe that is how you treat your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then maybe we have some different work to do.
Yeah.
Some different areas to explore. Some different things to figure out.
Yeah.
So even, it may not be the answer you expect, and it still builds awareness.
Yeah, and it gives you something to go forward from. Mm-hmm. And even if you have that moment, like, that's you, and that's okay. What do you do with that?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's this, that idea of, and it's okay, comes from a very, like, self-compassionate place and trying to develop that in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And non-judgment. It's kind of I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So then the other exercise that I think is really great is to think about, okay, what things make you feel inadequate? Mm-hmm. What about yourself? What about your attitude? What about the way you look? What about the things you have? What about the things you are that make you feel inadequate? Or feel like you're not good enough, or make you feel shameful.
Right.
And then writing a letter to yourself from kind of this point of view of a friend, a best friend. Sometimes I see this from from different perspectives, kind of like you were saying too. So if you think about a friend who is unconditionally loving of you, unconditionally accepting, imagine that they can see, they have a very clear concept of you. Your strengths, your weaknesses, all of that. Everything that you're writing about. And what would they feel towards you? And would they love you and accept you exactly as they are? Even with all of that? And then, like...
It makes me think of, I don't know why it's making me think of this, but RuPaul has his thing, like, if you can't love yourself, how the hell can you love anyone else?
Exactly, I love that.
Well, that, and then, like, if you can't love yourself, why would anybody else?
True.
Like...
Or, why do they?
Yeah.
Right? There's some insight to be had there.
Are you saying they're idiots if they think that you're fabulous?
Right. Like, they're like this imaginary friend in this letter. They see you.
Yeah.
They see your strengths. They see where you could improve. They see things about you. They have clarity.
Yeah.
And they still value you. They still love you. They still think you're worth everything.
Yeah.
So...
I think ignoring, like, that imaginary person and those people that you know you're basing that person off of, like, by ignoring that, you're writing those real life people off and doing a disservice to a lot of, like, time and energy. And not to make this like a guilt trip or anything, but I think that it's important, like, when you're feeling really down on yourself, it's so hard to get out of that mindset. So looking at it from just, like, reasonable ways of, like, well, this person, like, I know and I respect this person, they wouldn't hang out with me unless blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, I don't know if what I'm saying is coming clear.
No, it comes through exactly.
Okay.
It's all about perspective taking. It's all about taking the perspective of that other person. What is it that they see in you?
Yeah.
And don't discount that.
Yeah.
It's not about self-esteem. It's not about assigning value because of what you do, say, have, are, be, insert word here.
Yeah.
It's like, what about you is awesome. And that's enough.
Yeah.
You may have shortcomings too, and that's okay. We all do.
Yeah. Like, no one, it sounds so trite, but, like, no one's perfect.
Nope.
We're all growing, and it's this constant journey.
Yeah.
And the only time it really sucks, and the only time that you lose ground and, like, I would say start to be concerned is when you stop trying.
Yeah. I mean, self-compassion is, it's like you said, it's a journey. You're not going to get to an end point with that, and we can always improve and strive to be better and do a better job of being self-compassionate to ourselves. So, like, just keep at it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
This should help keep everybody motivated, because I know we haven't all hit our goals so far and have
That's
experienced
okay.
the failure, and that's fine. What do we do with it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So if you like this, then go ahead and leave a review, let a friend know, share it with your friends. We don't advertise or promote this beyond, like, our personal social media stuff.
It's limited.
So any help would be great. And if you're feeling, like, super stressed with all this shit you have going on, because, I mean, we all have so much shit going on.
So much.
I have something that I want you to have, which is a free Stress Slayer video. It has 3 awesome tricks that I know Tammy uses with her clients all the time. I use with my clients. They're, like, our go-to gold for stress reduction skills. Go to DesireeW.com. There's a link that says Slay Your Stress Now. It's a lovely blue link. And you can get that right to your inbox. So go do that and subscribe, review, do all the things. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.